Morning, good afternoon, good evening, good whatever time of day it is. Thank you for tuning in to Conversations with Dr. Don. The show is produced and broadcast from the Portland, Oregon area. For your first-time viewers, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of one-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people, like most of you out there, about who they are as unique, one-of-a-kind individuals, and about whatever it is we've decided to talk about. And I made it through my ritual without blowing it. So our guest this evening, again, is Stuart Perrin. And we'll be talking about light in Jerusalem. Yes. And it took you 10 or 12 years or so to put this book together?
Well, I started it in 2006 and finished it about 3-4 months ago.
You're a slow writer, aren't you?
Well, you know, it's just...
Good to see you again.
Nice to see you, Don.
How are you
It's
feeling?
always good to see you.
Yeah. How are you feeling now?
I'm feeling great. Yeah, life is really good, and I'm busy doing things I love doing, and I'm enjoying myself. It's good.
There must be something wrong with you. You're enjoying yourself every time I talk to you.
I don't know if there's something wrong with me. I think it's something good to enjoy yourself.
Of course, yeah. So I mentioned to you before the camera started rolling that I didn't read the entire book. I glanced at it because I was so busy with other troubles in my life, which are now all resolved. But I'm going to wing it because I'm used to picking a fight with you about most anything. Because I look forward to...
It's a good thing we're friends, huh?
Yeah. Because those occasional things you throw at me that illustrates that you like me, that makes up for anything else that's going between us. We have a unique relationship and friendship. And it's kind of hard to believe someone seems to be so consistently supportive and stroking. So that makes me feel good.
Well, look, I enjoy you, I enjoy people, I like to learn from everybody I'm around, and I think that's a good way to live, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I finally got past myself, and I can start listening to other people in a very good way. You know, it's nice.
You passed yourself. Maybe I'd ask a question about what were you before you passed yourself?
Oh boy. You want to go into that?
Yeah. So, since you've been on a number of times in the past, and probably a number of times more in the future, what is this, your fourth or fifth time through the years?
Must be, yeah.
Yeah,
It is.
and you're still here back again, and my viewers appreciate you too. So, as you know, and my viewers know, that the show goes typically in two major segments. One is what I call the bio segment, and you've been on so many times. But we've got new viewers as time goes by, so we'll do abbreviated bio about you. And we'll spend most of our time talking about Light in Jerusalem. I'm anxious to hear more about it, even though I didn't read it completely.
Mm.
So, now, I've told my viewers 1,000 times about myself, but as a model, I think I'll do it again, okay?
Okay.
I was born in New Orleans, Louisiana, of red, white, and black Roman Catholic parentage on December 26, 1928. Today, I am areligious and accepting of all others. I am a retired PhD, clinical psychologist, and present-day television broadcast journalist. Fancy, right? I'm the 12th of 12 children, am married, and am the father of 5 daughters by a first marriage. Politically, I'm a progressive populist activist, still learning how to live lovingly. Still learning how to live lovingly. A few of my heroes include Jesus, Gandhi, Martin Luther King, and any other fellow human who is currently living lovingly. Now, shall I choose from my regular list of questions, or have you remember what they were and give us an overview?
Well, just choose, because it's, just ask, and I'll...
Asking your best friend, who is Stuart? What would your best friend say? Be your best friend. Stuart is?
Stuart is...
Yes, what?
Stuart's a person who spent most of his life working, to really transform problems, the walls, the blocks in himself into an energy force that enables him to live a happy life, a good life, to be open to people, to have compassion, to live with love, to live with joy in my heart. And that's what Stuart is. A thing that took many, many years to do, of learning how techniques of how to use my mind, my breath, the meditation techniques that transformed most of the blocks and things that were really killing me when I was younger.
Is meditation that good?
Yes.
Okay.
When it's taught properly, it's that good. Just to sit and meditate, you can take a hot bath and get the same results. But when, I use the word meditation because I don't really have another word. A closer thing to it would be maybe inner work, learning to work on yourself. We're born with tools, Dawn, and very few people use these tools consciously. We have minds, we have breath, we have need, we have will. And when a person learns to master those tools and uses them to build a system inside themselves that's strong enough, they can transform the lower elements, all the tensions, anxieties, problems they have, into life-giving energies.
So it's pretty hard for an individual to do this on their own.
I'd say it's impossible.
Ah.
Look, when I was younger, I knew what I needed. I was 16 years old. I began to look for somebody who can help me. And I knew that this was impossible to do on my own. I needed to have a master, somebody who really was capable of guiding me. And a simple metaphor, was willing to get on the white water raft, and go down the rapids with me. And the rapids were me, my crazy life that I was living when I was younger. And it took 9 years to find this person.
And he was a master.
He was a master. He was the most extraordinary being I ever met.
How did he come to be a master?
Well, he spent many years of his life working on himself to get there. You understand? In the same way, he trained me to work on myself, which I still do to today. I never assume that I've arrived. I'm always having to overcome the blocks, the tensions inside, and using them as a means of growing instead as a means of destroying myself.
You have a worldwide following.
Well, yeah, I go traveling internationally, yeah.
And you've been doing that for years.
Yeah, I've been doing that. I used to have a lot of meditation centers in Europe, all over America, South America, the Middle East, and I spent half my life just traveling from one of these places to the other.
Can you actually have a cult in all those many places all over the world?
Can I have a what?
A cult, C-U-L-T.
No, they're not
cults. Don't you have a
cults.
cult?
No, they're not cults.
You know I'm going to come after you, even if I'm being silly.
No, they're not cults.
No.
They're ways, look.
Yeah.
They're ways for people, look, to put it in the simplest form, a real teacher of meditation or anything has to do one thing. They have to train people to get strong enough so they can sit in front of the real teacher, the Mahaguru, which is life. My job is to teach people everything I've learned. Now, it's almost 50 years I've been doing this. Everything I've learned, so that they can use these tools that I have learned to find their own unique, creative outlet into the world. And they themselves would begin to sit in front of life and let life be their teacher. But in order to do this, people have to really get strong inside. Otherwise, life just destroys everybody. I mean, you will look out in the world and you see all this craziness going on. I mean, it's nonstop. And I always kid around. I cannot remember one day in my life when the world hasn't been insane. And years ago, when I was younger, I said to myself, Stuart, you're not going to fix this. There's no way you can fix this. I said, but you can fix yourself. And you have to learn how to fix yourself. And then I spent 9 years looking for somebody who could teach me how to do it. And he himself said, Stuart, don't love me. Don't get all caught up. Your your love, it should be for a higher force of energy in the universe.
A higher force of energy. And of
That's
course,
right.
we're going to talk about that as we get into the second part of the
Yeah.
show. The higher force of energy. I would remember.
So I spent all these years of my life learning to master the one person who was keeping me from being happy, me. And when I finally got that down, my whole life transformed. And this is what I do with people today. I'm not interested in religion. I'm not interested in all this stuff, you know. I'm interested in one thing. Does a human being want to grow and become a happy person? Happy people are enlightened people.
Or people who are looking to be happy and enlightened, do they ignore the reality around them that's causing
You
pain?
can't ignore the reality around you.
Uh-huh.
Can't, because it's always in your face.
So,
And if you do ignore it, you're a fool. So the whole idea is to learn from it. Learn from what I call, it's just an illusion, all this stuff. It comes, it goes, and learn how to use it to build your life. Learn how to use it to get stronger inside. Learn how to use it to go deeper and learn what's real, in the world, instead of trying to, fiddle around with illusions that really do nothing but take your life away. What's real is building a system inside that is strong enough to be able to sit in front of life and let it be the master, let it be the teacher, the Mahaguru. Let it be the teacher, the real teacher.
do you think there's a substantial percentage of human beings on this earth who are able to do what you're talking about and what you're teaching?
Don, I was kidding around today. I said, you got to go through 100 people to find 3 that are willing to learn it. I mean this. This all my life it's been that way. I've had thousands and thousands of people come through my life. And if you find 3, 5 people that are really ready to learn it, in the Bhagavad Gita, they say, many are called and few are chosen.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody's born. Everybody has a mind. Everybody has breath. Everybody has a chakra system. Everybody has will. Everybody has need.
I'm going to try to pay attention more this time when you talk about the chakra system, because I always have a little difficulty there. I can't find it really. So you teach me before that's over again for the
I'll
umpteenth
try.
time.
I'll try. Maybe you're one of the 3.
Okay. When and where were you born?
I was born in New York, in the Bronx, in the tenements of the Bronx, South Bronx.
Mm-hmm.
No,
And you had many years before you decided to find this teacher.
no, I was 16 when I started looking for somebody to teach me this.
Uh-huh.
It happened when my father died. And it was, I think I've told this story here, but I'll tell it again. It was
Sure.
amazing. I was in Miami Beach with my mother and sister. We used to go there every summer. My mother had hay fever and somehow believed being in Miami Beach would keep her from having hay fever. So every summer we went down there. And we get a phone call, my father's in the hospital. And we flew back to New York, went to the hospital, and my father had like 106 fever, and he was in,
Ooh, nobody gets that high.
yeah, it was really bad. And he was like in kind of a traumatic state, and he didn't know myself, he didn't know my mother or my sister, he didn't know anybody. He was like in a coma, not a coma, but he was in the bed just shaking,
Of course, that fever.
And he
yeah.
had some disease that they cure today, like, with a blinking, it had some form of colon disease. It wasn't cancer, it was colitis.
Yeah.
But at that time, it was called an ulcerated colitis,
Ooh.
Anyway, this went on for a week. And one day I walked into the hospital room, and he was lying in bed in a state of complete serenity. Total, like, surrender, it was incredible. I never saw my father in my life looking that calm. And I took his hand and I said, "Do you know me?" And he said, "Yes." And I looked into his eyes, I could see 1,000,000 miles, and the whole hospital room just filled up with light. And I sat there for a while with him. Then I got up to leave the room for a minute, and I met his nurse. And I said to her, I was 16. I said, "What is going on? What's going on?" She said, to her understanding and what she's experienced, right before people leave the world, they enter this state of complete serenity,
Yes.
and
I've heard
total
that.
surrender, like they've just given up everything, and it's just, they're just totally And my first thought is, why did my father have to wait 49 years to get this state of surrender? Why couldn't he have done this in his lifetime? It completely changed my life, Don. I was a very good basketball player when I was younger, really very good. I used to score 20, 30 points a game when I used to play. And I was going to go try to get scholarships and go to college and become a doctor, a lawyer, something, you know. Excuse me.
You got that lingering cough again.
Well,
You'll talk about that,
bit,
won't you?
yeah.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, my whole life changed. I became a hippie. I became a beatnik. I became I started reading all this, literature from the East, meditation, Zen, Hinduism, Buddhism. And when I was 18, I went away from home. I went to Europe when I was like 19. I bought a one-way ticket to Europe. And my whole quest was to find somebody who could teach me what I saw in my father's eyes. Because I knew I couldn't do this by myself.
Mm-hmm.
I was too crazy as a kid. And I spent 9 years looking, and I finally found the person.
You found Rudy?
Found Rudy. And I went all around the world, and I found him in my hometown, which was New York.
Uh-huh. Why were you born?
Why was I born?
Why do you always repeat that question to me? Just do it.
I don't know. I was born to do what I do, Don. That's why I was born.
Yeah. You learned something about that cough. I thought you'd do something about it before this show. And
I've learned something about it.
An ongoing thing.
It's all right. I'm okay. It's okay.
All right.
I found out that it has to do with acid reflux.
I've been there.
Yeah, and it'll go away. I just have to watch what I eat a little bit.
All right.
Anyway, why was I born? Don, I'll give you an example. I was at Coffee Creek Prison today.
Oh, today?
Teaching. Yeah,
again.
Today.
Uh-huh.
At 1 o'clock, I went there. I go there every time I'm in, at least 3 or 4 times every time I'm in Portland. And 19 women walked into this room, eager, hungry, full of tension, insecurity. Women that, if you'll pardon my language, I said to them, I said, look, you've been through enough bullshit in your life that you could plant a football field. You could, fertilize a football field with it.
Watch those certain words as a family show. It's not that bad, but we want to admonish you. It's the only one you use, I know you.
Okay. Anyway, by the end of the class, to see these women sitting there with a twinkle in their eye, with love inside them, understanding that, their place in the world has something more than a place like Coffee Creek. And one woman came up to me and she said to me, it just almost brought a tear to my eye. She said, Stuart, I am grateful I'm here. I found this meditation here and it saved my life. What greater purpose can you have in life than just something like that?
When did she say that? The beginning of your session with her?
After the session.
After the session.
Yeah.
And you saw something different in her?
Oh, she's a different person.
Was she with you the first time, or was she a repeat?
I never met her before.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and she said, look, I have I write books, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, a lot of them. And I'm going to put together, I have a book that I'm going to come out with. I don't know when, but I have about 260 letters I've gotten from women at Coffee Creek Prison. Every one of them I've answered.
Say a few more words about Coffee Creek Prison, since you've been there so many times. So the viewers will know what it's like.
It's a minimum and medium security prison for women.
Here in
and most of them are there for drugs.
Is it here in Oregon?
Yeah, it's right outside in Wilsonville, right outside of Portland.
Yeah, because the viewers don't know that. That's why I wanted you to set the stage.
And there must be 600-700 women in this place.
Yeah, that's a lot.
A lot of women. And we've been holding meditation classes there for 5 years, where one of my students, Alice Stipak, I don't know if you ever had her on the show, but she goes out there a couple of times a week and teaches, and every time I'm in Portland, I go out there and teach this meditation.
So somebody brought you here tonight because they couldn't let you go out alone, right? Who'd you bring with you?
I brought Isabel. She's been
Isabel.
on your program.
She is delightful.
Yeah, she's a doll. She's a wonderful kid. Wonderful human being.
And she's sparkling. Her eyes are alight. And
Well, you should
you've
have
done
seen
a
her
good job there.
3 years ago, Dawn. I mean, when I look at her, I tell you, you're the miracle of the 21st century, you know?
Yeah.
It's extraordinary how she's changed and how she's doing.
How about your racial, national, or cultural heritage? Anything about those things that would be of value to the viewers? Yeah, it's a lot, huh?
No, it's not a lot. Look, I was born in the Bronx to a Jewish family.
Mm.
You know, I light in Jerusalem, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and I was raised there, but it was never my path. And even as a young man, I knew this was not my path. I had to find my path. So,
What do you mean by your path?
well, what I needed to do with my life, you know,
Okay.
what I needed to do with my life, and I couldn't find it within the teachings of what my family were teaching me.
Okay.
I needed something else.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I was kind of a very angry young man. I was a gypsy kid. I was a very artsy kind of kid. I didn't fit into the normal kind of go to school, Stuart, and become a lawyer and get a house in the suburbs with a white picket fence and a 2-car garage.
You did become a collector one time of artworks and like that.
I used to. My business was collecting, selling art. That's how I earned a living when I was years ago.
I'm jumping ahead on you.
Yeah.
So anything more about your cultural heritage? Well, you said enough already. That's enough. Shall we stop there?
Yeah, I don't, you know.
You have a religious preference today?
No,
You're a-religious?
pretty much.
Are you a communist?
No, no.
You know I'm going to.
No, I just, it's not that I'm a-religious. Look, we'll get to this book.
Sure.
It's full of religion. But, like there's a story in this book where I go to the Dome on the Rock. It's on the cover of the book.
Yes,
It's
yes.
a very sacred mosque in Islam. And in the center of this dome, there's a huge rock.
Yeah.
And on this rock, Abraham was supposed to have was going to sacrifice Isaac in the Old Testament.
Mm.
You know?
And this is in present day Israel.
Yeah, it's in this place here, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, and then also it's the place where Muhammad was supposed to have ascended to heaven, on this rock.
Do you believe he did that?
Yeah, I believe. Yeah, why not? You know. Anyway, I'm standing there, and Dawn, as I'm live and breathe, I began to see that this whole rock, and the whole idea of Abraham, wanting to sacrifice. It's like Abraham in the Kabbalah is faith.
Uh-huh.
It's that higher connection to God in the Kabbalistic teachings. Isaac was the heart. It's like the heart chakra. And in order for a human being to become enlightened, it's like the body, the heart has to be sacrificed to, ultimately through death. So anyway, I'm standing there, and when you look up at the dome, it's like a mandala. You know what a mandala is?
Oh, yes.
It's like a mandala that goes infinitely into the universe. And I'm standing there and looking at this, and I'm completely blown away. Because I say, Stuart, this is like the meditation practice you teach. I said, this is an absolute example of the kind of meditation. Because what I teach is, learning how to get grounded, the foundation, the rock. The heart has to open, understand? And then, we have to be connected through the chakra in the third eye, or which connects us to here, and then it connects us to God.
You're giving me a preview of what you're going to give me later on, because you're going to do it again.
But anyway, I'm standing there, I'm seeing this, and I went into a deep meditation state. I couldn't believe my eyes. I said, Stuart, this is what you learned from your teacher, right here. And I sat down to do a meditation there. And I'm sitting there for like 5 minutes, and suddenly some guy cleric comes running across this huge mosque. It's a really big place, screaming at me to get up. I'm not a Muslim. I shouldn't be sitting there. And I'm like, I'm paying homage to the Muslim faith there, you know, like this is extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
And you get up. I thought I was going to start another war in the Middle East.
And you're a-religious, and you're going through this experience
Yeah.
in their facility.
And I got up. So I got up. I didn't want to start any trouble there, you know. And I just thanked him, and and I went back to just stand by the rock and just meditate that way, you know. So I'm not religious because I don't believe in dogma. You understand? I think dogma just traps people.
Isn't religion by and large based on dogma?
Yes, and that's why I don't have much, but I believe in the absolute essence of Islam, Christianity, Judaism. When you get back to the essence of these religions, they're all the same thing, and they're all extraordinary.
Are
But
they
what
useful?
happens is, yes,
How so?
well, because they are really a way of people, when they learn the essence of these religions, whatever their path is, it's a way of people building a system inside themselves that can be connected to a higher power of energy.
So they need to learn the essence of a religion in order for
Yes.
religion to be of any
Rather
value.
than human beings interpreting the religion and creating dogma.
What is
You know-
the essence of a religion?
Spirit.
Spirit.
Yeah, spirit.
You're going to define spirit for me before the
Can't
evening's
define
over?
it.
Oh my God, how am I going to make any sense out of you?
Can't
The same
define
way I
it.
usually do, by enjoying you immensely. Your formal education, you had a bunch of that, didn't you?
High school, and then took 10 years to graduate from college.
Why did it take you so long?
I was traveling around the world. I was, living in Europe. I was studying acting in New York. I was doing a million things. And I hated school. I didn't want to go to school. So I was doing everything. And then finally my teacher, Rudy, said, go get a college degree. And I said, why? He said, just do it. And I didn't understand. And then when I went back, I realized why he wanted me to do that. Up until that point, I was incapable of finishing anything, completing cycles. And I would go to college and I would spend all the time fighting with my teachers, knowing better than them. One of those kind of creepy guys,
I've
Always-
been there.
And I realized, Stuart, you're not here for that. You can learn everything they have to teach you at home. You just get books and read them and you learn it. I said, you're here to learn how to finish a cycle. And when I finally realized that, my whole approach to school changed. And when I graduated, with honors, basically, and they will recommend you to any college in America you want to go to. Because I finally started listening instead of knowing better. I finally said, Stuart, you're not here for any other reason to learn how to finish a cycle. And when I finally finished it, my whole life changed.
So you're listening to these people and
Yes.
to get the essence, but do they all have an essence that you listen to and take
They
something
all have,
from?
whether I agree or don't agree, they all had something to teach me.
But you learn something because of how and who and what they are about.
That I learned something because I finally stopped having to use my ego to contend with them. And I listened to them as human beings.
Now
And
you're
lo-
stepping into my territory, psychology. You
Yeah.
got me covered.
Well, I started listening to them as human beings, and they were, and even when I didn't agree with them, there was something there for me to learn.
What do you listen with?
I listen with my heart, my inner life.
I can't corner you. You're so slippery and
Yeah.
wonderful.
I don't listen.
Listening with the whole being.
Yeah, listen with my being. I don't listen. I don't try to pick people apart. I don't try. I just, how can I be less? Because less to me is more. How can I be less of Stuart, less of my ego, less of my opinions, less of my anxiety, less of everything? And by doing that, I can just embrace life and let life really become my teacher.
So you're experiencing the essence of people and learn from that.
That's right.
They're modeling for you how to be.
It's like I even told you with all your atheist or agnostic stuff, and I've never met anyone more Buddhist in my life. You know, I've told you this on your program once, and it's true. I've never met anyone more Buddhist. There's a kindness, a sweetness, love in you, and yet you don't believe in any of this higher stuff, you know?
Wait a minute, don't tell me I don't believe. I am a skeptic.
You're a skeptic.
That's why I pursue you so awful. What do you do anymore? What a dumb question. You've been telling me since we've been together again what you do in your life and what you've done earlier on in your life before you met Rudy and had that experience.
Before I met Rudy, I was living in Europe, Paris mostly, but then traveling all over Europe. I was writing a lot of poetry. I was, you know, just living off. I mean, I had jobs like selling the Herald Tribune in Paris on the streets. I had jobs working as extras in movies. You know, doing voiceovers in movies. I did all kinds of things, you know, a million different jobs.
Well, you know, we can go on and on forever with this conversation because you're always interesting, even though some of the stuff you have told me before.
I used to do little German, I used to do English mystery programs in Germany. I used to act in them in Germany. In English, they would use to teach kids English in the schools.
There's no end to you, is there? Well, because you mentioned poetry a moment ago, I mentioned a member of my poetry group that we meet once a month, and Sydney Lezundia, I have permission to read this poem by her that she wrote on March 7, 2018, this year. And I found it delightful, and I think you enjoyed it too, so let me do it again, all right?
Nice.
Goes for, maybe 3-4 minutes, hopefully not that long. The title of it is Insomnia. Insomnia crept under the covers with me in bed last night, at midnight. It likes to keep me awake at 1 a.m., 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and so on. It is an unyielding, gleeful foe. It interferes with plans, robs me of energy, and messes with my mind. How do you combat this evil demon? I have already counted 2 million sheep, from the green hills of New Zealand to the mountains of the Spanish Pyrenees. I can count backwards from 113 languages. I have done scissor kicks, jumping jacks, and marched resolutely up and down stairs. I have meditated with Buddha, chanted with the monks, and practiced deep breathing exercises with our long-gone cat. I've listened to the soothing melodies of Brahms, sought wisdom from the twinkling stars, and composed poetry before dawn. I have even offered bribery, my prized teddy bear, my sleeping husband. Insomnia just giggled at that. Apparently I have no defense against this sorcerer. None, I say. Can you help me? Will you help me? Please help me. Vinny, Sydney, Lezundia, I hope I did justice to your beautiful poetry that you always write. Thank you for allowing me to do that.
No problem.
All right, let me ask you 1 or 2 more questions, and so we can continue on with the book, which is what we're here for. And you were going to tell me people from the past alive today who you admire particularly or look up to. Any names come to mind for you besides Rudy?
You. I mean, look what you do with yourself in your life at your age. It's amazing.
And part of the reason is occasionally I run across somebody like you and I pay attention.
Yeah, but that's, to me, amazing. Somebody who's your age doing what you do today.
And I like it listening to you in that unique sense of what I'm talking about by listening with all of my senses. And your eyes have it. Your eyes have it. I'm sure you've heard that before.
Yeah. I mean, there are a lot of people. I admire the Dalai Lama.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there are a bunch of them. You know, they don't come off my head, but there are people I admire in life, and a lot of my students who are amazing people. You know, really trying to, live their lives in the world at the same time having spiritual lives. I mean, I admire that in people,
Okay.
My daughter, who's a wonderful kid, Yeah, she's a wonderful kid.
She still hasn't quite learned you?
I once told her, I said, Ania, her name is Ania.
Mm-hmm.
And I said to her, I spent 9 years looking for Rudy. I said, I went through hell to find him, including I wound up in a Spanish jail, I was younger. I said, I went through hell to find him. 9 years I spent. I said, you were born with somebody who could give you everything I learned from Rudy.
Uh-huh.
Just take advantage. Oh, Daddy. Oh, Daddy. When I'm ready,
Did she ever get ready?
Yeah, she's getting more ready. She really communicates a lot with me and listens a lot to what I tell her. And she's a wonderful kid.
Does she love you?
Kid. Yeah, loves me.
You want to say a word to her? Look at the camera and say something to her.
Yeah, Ania, dear, you are precious and I love you very much.
Well, listen, unless somebody's yelling at me in the control room to take a break because I've gone too far, and we'll come back in a couple of minutes and resume talking about light in Jerusalem. Please take a break. Okay, we're back. Thanks for staying tuned. It took a long time to have the break, but we're going to go back to talk about light in Jerusalem in just a moment. However, for you viewers who missed the opening of the show, Conversations with Dr. Don is an ongoing series of 1-hour standalone talk shows where I interview interesting people like Stuart here about who he is as a unique, one of a kind individual, and indeed he is one of a kind. And about whatever it is we have decided to talk about tonight. We're going to talk about his new book, Light in Jerusalem. All right, so why don't you start about what it is you would have us pay attention to about in this new book that took you many years to write?
You want me to read the introduction?
Sure.
Okay, because that really sums the whole thing up.
And ignore my markups because I was trying to find some reason to fight with you, but I couldn't find any.
Well, this is the author's note, okay?
Yeah, yes.
At least once a year for over 20 years, I've been invited to Jerusalem to teach meditation and lecture on the application of a spiritual life to everyday living. And Jerusalem has become one of my favorite cities on earth. Besides being the cradle of Western religion, besides the ancient and modern architecture melded seamlessly together in many parts of the city, the Jerusalem market, the old city, the Western Wall, the Dome on the Rock, and hundreds of other churches, mosques, and synagogues, besides disparate religious and ethnic communities that live next to one another in an uneasy alliance. The light in Jerusalem has always intrigued me as being one of the great mystical forces on earth. In the summer of 2006, I had plans to visit Israel when a war broke out between the Israelis and Hezbollah, and the newscast showed bombs and rockets exploding in Haifa, the Galilee, Beirut, and southern Lebanon. The entire country was being drawn into a major confrontation. It's important for me to visit Jerusalem, I thought. What I would teach there is diametrically opposed to the fighting in the north. Joy, happiness, and love are essential to spiritual practice, as well as human dignity. and I wondered how my message would be received in a country at war. Light in Jerusalem is a memoir of various and sundry experiences I had on trips to Israel. Though it's set in 2006, a time of war in the Middle East, it explores paradoxical situations I experienced on many of my visits to a country that's the birthplace of three major religions and a focal point of the modern world's attention, a country that inspired me to tap vast resources of spiritual energy in myself and to recognize essential truths expressed on different paths that lead to the same place. I discovered that Jerusalem's mysterious light pierced conflicted thought and opened doors hidden behind political and religious differences, a light that illuminates truth at the source of all humanity's doctrines and beliefs.
This light you're talking about is the light you experience with your eyes,
Yes.
or beyond that?
Well, it's both. There's a kind of mystical light in Jerusalem, in the city.
What's a mystical light?
Well, I don't know. It's just a light that is, I've never, it's like, well, there's desert.
Do you experience it, or just you just see it?
You see it. I see it when I'm there.
Oh.
It's like, Jerusalem is on like mountains. It's
Yes.
built on mountains, but it's surrounded by desert.
Yeah.
And there's a kind of light there that I've never seen anywhere else. You know, it's
Has
like
anyone
amazing.
else seen this light?
Yeah, people see it all the time there. I know people that have seen it. And then to me it equates with a spiritual light. You know, that it's the birthplace of so many religions, and it's a place of such deep reverence by so many people that there is some mystical force in that city that is amazing to me.
Mystical. You keep saying mystical. What the hell does that mean? Pardon me. What does that mean? I just warned you about
Well,
that.
it's a force that transcends all meaning.
Oh, God. I'm leaving.
It's a force that, it's a transcendental kind of force of an energy of spirit.
Mhm.
Understand that is beyond human understanding.
Transcendental, meaning transcending the normal
Transcending
senses.
our logic, our opinions, our comprehension, goes outside the realm of things we can understand.
But you can learn about them, but you can't really understand them, those
Right. You know,
things.
you begin to understand them when they become living expressions of your life. In other words, you live that way, because the mind can never quite comprehend the mysticism, the mystery of spirit.
So I'm transcending what's going on in my neocortex, and there's some other perception that goes on that's spiritual. Darn it, you got me saying it. So go on, please, Stuart.
Anyway, I wrote this book. It's also a very strong anti-war book, Don.
Uh-huh. And you know I'm very anti-war.
Yeah, I know. And because, I get, examples. Here I am in a country where 100 miles away they're fighting a war. I mean, it's like there's a war going on in Eugene, you know?
Yeah.
And here I am riding on a road going to an Arab town just outside of Jerusalem to eat in a Palestinian restaurant, you know? And I walk in the restaurant, and this Palestinian restaurant is full of Jewish people having hummus and baba ganoush and all these Mideastern dishes, having wonderful times, laughing, having fun. I'm welcomed into the restaurant by a Palestinian, host who says, welcome and come and sit down. I'm told by one of the waiters that all the food on the menu is from their mother, who produced all these recipes for the food, and the food is delicious. And all these Jewish people are sitting at a Palestinian restaurant having an incredible time.
What's wrong with them?
Nothing. And 100 miles away, they're fighting a war. And I said, Stuart, this is incredible. The paradox is extraordinary.
Are they experiencing the light of Jerusalem?
I don't know if they are or not. That's not my business. What I was writing about in that scene is war is ridiculous. It's absurd. People have to understand what's more important is people loving each other, sitting down enjoying food together, being part of humanity's, embracing of one another. I mean, and here 100 miles away, they're fighting a war. People are killing each other. The guy I'm with, this guy Eli Malki, he's a very close friend of mine, You know, his wife's brother is being sent away to fight this war. His wife's mother is freaking out, you know, that her son might get killed. His sister, Ellie's wife, is freaking out that her brother might get killed. You know, meanwhile, we're sitting in this, and all the people that are serving us are Palestinians. They're all Muslims.
How did this come about?
How did what come about?
How did this come about, this restaurant where the Jewish people
Because this town is a Palestinian town. It's right outside of Jerusalem, and they make fantastic food. And all the Israelis go there and eat and have a great time.
So that overcomes everything else going on in
all
their
this
makeup and
this is what
prejudices.
Another story. I'm in the north of Israel, you know, and we're driving on a road in the Galilee. We're in the Galilee.
Yeah.
And we're driving on a road. We come to a Lebanese restaurant, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I walk in the restaurant, and the restaurant's pretty empty. It was early. It was like maybe 11:30 in the morning. And this man comes up to us. He's a Palestinian, Lebanese, Islamic Muslim.
Sure.
Welcome to my restaurant. Come, sit down, and blah, blah, blah. And we said, well, bring us a mezza. A mezza is like a grouping of salads that they bring, and they come with a tray, and there's 20 salads on it. They stick it on the table, and you eat with pita bread, you know? And he goes, and he said, the food is wonderful. My wife is the cook. You're going to really enjoy this. You know, blah, blah, blah. He goes, anyway, he comes back with pita bread, with falafel, with, well, you know, all this stuff, hummus. And he gives me a bottle of olive oil. And he said, you are an American. You are my guest here, and I have to give you a present. Imagine 100 miles away, they're fighting a war. The Americans are backing the Israelis. You know, and here you are my guest. We make this olive oil in my backyard. And we bottle it and we sell it. I want to give you a bottle of this olive oil. I'm like, you know, you can bring tears to your eyes. Just human beings interacting. And meanwhile, the food was fantastic. We had a great time. You know, this man was a wonderful man. And here, my friend Ellie and the other people there are all Israelis. He's a Palestinian. And this is going on 100 miles away. They're fighting a war.
What is it about these people in this restaurant who own and run this restaurant? What is it about them that's unique? Have they grown and learned about what you're about?
No,
meditation?
they know that, look, they have to earn a living, Don. They have to earn a living. You know, they have to feed their families. They have to work. And we're their patrons. And there's a thing in Islam, which I like very much. A guest is God. You treat a guest that way, as if God has just come into your house.
So you believe in God?
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry to tell you I do. And a guest is, you know, I tell you another story that's very interesting on this topic.
Mm-hmm.
I was in India, you know, in Mumbai. I had very close friends there, and they invited me to a brunch at my friend's in-laws' apartment. And I said, fine. So he and I had some business we had to do, and then we went to the brunch. I walked in the door, and there were probably 4 or 5 men sitting in the living room. They all looked like Osama bin Laden. I mean, they had all the hats and the clothing and the beards, and every one of them
Which
looked like that.
turned you on, didn't it?
Yeah, and I looked at them, and I said, oh, my God. I said, here I am, a Jewish guy from the Bronx. And these guys, anyway, they welcomed me.
Uh-huh.
They could not be more interested in me as a human being, what I do, what I teach, asking me all kinds of questions. You know, perfect hosts. I mean, I couldn't believe it. It was perfect host. Kind. We sat down at the table, and they had a dish the size of this table. And there must have been 15 people sitting around this thing. And you eat with your hands. They come, you wash your hands, and you eat with your hands. The best food on this dish they put in front of me. The best food they put in front of me.
Why?
I was their guest.
Okay.
You know, Americans need to learn this, Don. How to treat guests. How to understand what guests are and how to welcome them into their house that way. So, you know, look, I'm not a religious person, but I try to find the deepest levels of humanity in myself and treat people that way and try to teach that to people that come to my classes. And when you find this as a living example of life where people are being treated that way.
So this kind of teaching is so important to you. It's the essence of your life.
It's the essence, learning to be, not learning to be spiritual. I tell people, when you come to my meditation classes, this is not a spiritual life. This is the gym. You come here to build chakras, energy centers, muscles that'll get you strong enough so that you can learn to have a spiritual life. A spiritual life is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And it really takes place in people doing everything that you believe in, being kind, you know, having love, having compassion, finding the highest levels of your humanity that you can interact with people with. But people can't do this unless they build systems inside that are strong enough to do it.
Stuart, you know what time it is? We've only got about 5 minutes left for you to talk about the chakras and that kind of stuff. So get going, please.
You want me to talk about? Or do you want me to talk about light?
Whatever you want to talk about.
Well, you know, there are a lot of stories. I'll tell you another story in that book.
Please.
Okay. I went to the Church of the Nativity, you know, in Bethlehem.
You're all over the place.
Yeah. It's just outside of Jerusalem.
Yes,
it's
of
a
course.
story in the book. And I'm standing on a long line, and they have all these Byzantine paintings on the walls, and you know, mosaics, and and I see a stairwell. And I said to this friend of mine, I said, "Look, I'll be back in a minute. I just want to go see what's down there." So I walk down this stairwell, and I come into a catacomb that's completely empty. Nobody's there. And Don, my knees buckled. It was so powerful being in that room. I had no idea what went on there, what happened there. So I couldn't stand up. I had to sit down and meditate. I was so strong. Anyway, about 10 minutes later, a group of Romanian tourists came in with an Israeli guide that was talking in English. I discovered that this was the place, the manger, where Jesus was born. It was totally unbelievable. You know, I had no idea. But I walked into that place, and I felt like my knee, it was so strong, my knees buckled. I had to sit down and do deep inner work, deep meditation. It was incredible. And this is one of the things I write about in that book, you know, about these experiences I had in Jerusalem.
Inner work, you just said. What does that mean?
That's working, learning to work with the chakra system, learning to use your mind, your breath, your will, your need.
Now, you've only got about 3 minutes to talk about the chakra system.
Well, okay, we'll give you a quick rundown on the chakra system.
Please.
All right, there's 7 basic chakras.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, they're located in different parts of the body. There's one here, which they often call the third eye.
Mm-hmm.
Throat, heart, right below the navel, the sex, the base of the spine, and the top of the head. Now, the meditation that I teach is based upon learning how to use your mind and your breath to develop this chakra system. The chakra that's right below the navel, this is the center of balance in a human being. You know, the Chinese call this the Ta-Tien, the Japanese call this the Hara. And they talk about Qi. Qi is the real power in a human being. You know, when people do the martial arts and they break boards and throw it, it's this energy that's doing it. It's not the mind, it's not the hands. So when this is developed inside, understand the next thing you can do is open the heart. The heart can stay open because there's foundation on which it rests. Then the throat opens. So the heart is the way we communicate with life. Understand? Instead of anger and being upset and tight and opinionated, love, compassion, because the heart can stay open. The throat opens. You understand? The throat is also a means of communication. Most people talk to each other. It's like static on a radio. Nobody listens. No, you know, it's all tension that comes out of them, you know? So when this tension is alleviated, people can really talk to each other. Then the mind gets quiet because all of this crap that goes on in the mind, you know, it can flow down. And it becomes chi, it becomes power, strength. Understand? Then we can be nurtured by a higher force in the universe because we are not interfering with that force coming into us. When we're full of us, there's no room for it. You can only put so much water in a cup. You understand? So that energy can come in.
You're talking about love, and you imply in what you're saying, love, love, love. That's repeated time and again.
Yes.
What is love, Stuart?
What is that?
Gotcha.
Well, you don't have me. Love is a different thing for every human being that experiences it.
Sure.
For me, it's the joy of really being able to touch another human being in a place inside them that's deep. The ability to get past my own tension, to not sit in judgment of somebody, the ability to, like, for instance, my daughter, the love I have for my daughter. My first responsibility is to let her find her life. Mm-hmm. You understand? Let her experience her life.
Let her experience her life.
You know, let her find herself.
Loving her.
Love her when she makes mistakes. And I not lecture her, but just be there for her when things are going wrong.
We got to stop before they yell at me, okay? Now look in the camera and have one final message to the viewers. Anything comes to mind right now, or outside of your mind, just say it.
Well, I would say that if there's anything on this planet that's keeping you from being happy, it's yourself. And the day you can learn to master the chaos inside yourself and really learn how to transform the pain, the suffering, the difficulty in yourself into energy of a spiritual nature is the day that you're going to be able to open your heart and you're going to be able to be a happy person. Happy people are enlightened people.
You did it again. We got to put your book up here so people can see. And how do they get a hold of it from you?
You can get it from Amazon.
Amazon.
Yeah.
All right.
You can get it from any bookstore, but if it's not in the store, they can order it, you know?
Very good. You did it again. Thoroughly entertaining, educational, and I'll see how closer you've got to having me awaken. Thanks again for coming by.
I don't have to awaken you. You're awakened. You know, you're a wonderful person. You're a wonderful person.
Oh, right. Thank you. And now it is time for us to do public service announcements. Oh, you got to watch my shows on the web. Google Don Baham YouTube. There's a whole bunch of shows on there, including older ones that we did with Stuart. And then, thanks for watching. Thanks for watching this show. Remember KFC. Not Kentucky Fried Chicken, Dr. Don KFC. Kind, okay, friendly, and charitable. Be kind, be friendly, and be charitable to you too. And you too. And you too. And we'll see you next time. Thanks again. Good night.